And good evening, everybody. It is your boy, the Eternal Sith, with my special co-host,
Darth Hater,
not
with my
20.
special co-host, the
Yeah.
Eternal too.
What's going on, everybody? That was the most evilest laugh I could possibly.
Mm-hmm.
We're here today. It's a special day. First off, let's start off by saying this is the first time we're doing our Eternal Hater podcast. So let's give a round of applause for that. That was like a
We
choir.
hate eternally.
Yes, we hate eternally. So forever we will hate on everything that is to hate eternally. Um, dude, we have a big one today. We have a big one today.
Really do.
Hey, great Jedi. I told you I was 2 a.m. Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hopefully we can make it worth your while. We are actually waiting for our special guest that should be hopping on pretty soon. So just bear with us, stay with us, and again, we should have him on pretty soon. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Love you too, and we appreciate you joining us on the other channel, which we did our live stream on the other day, which was for the Andor episode 4 series, which we'll kind of talk about a little bit up until our special guest actually comes in. But for starters, how are you doing, Dupree? How are you doing? Or shall I
I'm
say
all right, man.
Darth
I'm
Vader?
all right. It's okay for a Monday. How you doing?
It is good. So I guess without, well, I want to say this. We don't really have to talk about Andor because our special guest has arrived. So without further ado, we have the one, the only Darth Vader. We have two Vaders in the room.
Yeah, we have two Vaders in the room.
We have two.
But he's the real one. He's the real
Do you
one.
guys feel
Clap
the
it up.
tremor in the Force? Do
Yes,
you
I'm
feel
like,
the pressure of two Vaders?
look at my hair. My hair's like literally like.
Oh, I feel it.
Dude, thank you for hopping on so much. I know it's been crazy couple days as you see my hair.
Yeah.
It's crazy right now. Saturday was me, Sunday was Dupree.
Mm-hmm.
We just I was moving, he was moving, we were moving in different directions, but the force brought us together, and that's the beautiful thing.
Finally, yeah. Third time's a charm.
Finally.
I have
Yes.
a good feeling.
Yes, I do. I want to thank you again so much for hopping on. I know a bunch of people are excited for this.
Yeah. Thanks for hopping on, man.
I know we are.
I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, we've been looking forward to it. We have so many questions for you. But without going too much into it, I guess if you could introduce yourself, the floor is gonna be yours.
Yeah. Floor is yours right now.
So if you could tell us a
Okay.
little bit about yourself. He's like, oh damn, I wasn't ready for this.
Already on the
Hello,
spot.
my name is Dmitrious Bistrevsky. I go by Darth Dmitrious, and I'm the Darth Vader performance artist in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Meaning I'm the suit actor who plays Darth Vader.
Yes. All the smoke, all the praise and glory to you. Darth Hater 23. Anything you want to start off before we do get into, I guess, rapid fire of questions?
Yeah. Okay. So I met you a couple weeks ago at your signing, and like there's one question I wanted to ask you, and I didn't think about asking you until today. So I wanted to know, like, what was the process? Like, how did you get cast in Kenobi?
Okay, so this is a magic story. Part of it was I knew that this role was mine. I knew this role was mine. Not only did I know this role was mine, when I left Spokane, Washington, like 12 years ago, I told a couple of my friends, if there's ever a Darth Vader, I'm gonna play him. And this was a very bold boast that I had nothing to back it up with, but I just said it because I was obsessed with Darth Vader and I was obsessed with ninjas, and I was like, well, if I'm moving to LA to become an actor, if there's ever Darth Vader, I'm the perfect height, I'll play Darth Vader. And then Rogue One came out, and I was like, oh, there's my chance. That was it. And I was like, it's okay, there's other roles that come up. So I heard through the grapevine that there was going to be a big Star Wars project coming up, but this is super NDA, right? You know how it is. Like no one knows anything, and when everyone is speaking hush hush, they're speaking in very broad terms with a wink and a nod. So there's a big Star Wars project coming up, and I'm a suit actor, so I do a lot of different suits and costumes and prosthetics. Like there's a big suit, and it's an iconic suit, and he fights with a sword. And I was like, say no more. I know exactly what you're saying. So I started. It was the summer. It was the summer 2 years ago.
I thought you were going to say it was the summer. I thought you were going to say it was the summer of 1999. No.
I don't even remember what year it was. Yeah, it was the summer of 2020. It was the summer of 2020, I believe, or 20. Yeah. And I started training sword a little bit, and it was more like of a manifestation of like putting out to the universe that I want to do this role. So I started just picking up a sword, started swinging it around. I had no real guidance. I was just kind of practicing some twirls and stuff like that, knowing that there's this big project coming up. And then I was just like, you know what? If it comes, it comes. But I had a good feeling about it. And then about 3 months later, I get contacted by a stunt coordinator. And the stunt coordinator, same thing, hush, hush. Hey, we're looking for a suit actor. And I used to do stunts a while back. I used to do stunts like 5 years ago. And then I had a career-ending injury, and I transitioned out of stunts and more into suit acting, and then now more into regular acting. So, but people still know me in the stunt industry because I'm a circus acrobat. So I do a lot of really cool stuff, and I'm really good with my body. And 5 years ago, I used to flip a lot, and I do handstands, and I train martial arts. So people in the stunt industry still know who I am, and I train at the stunt gyms as well. So people have seen my face, and I guess the word got out that I'm a suit actor and that I'm comfortable in a suit, because as you know, it takes a level of perseverance to be okay with being uncomfortable for long periods of time. And some people have a hard time and they freak out. So there's a whole category of suit actors who people know are good. They're okay with the claustrophobia. They're okay with the heat. They're okay with being uncomfortable. And my name got thrown around, and I get contacted by the stunt coordinator. Stunt coordinator shows up to my house, and we just do a mock interview about my martial arts background, everything else. And I was like, oh, I'm a circus person, but I'm obsessive. So you say the word, and I'll do it. And it was the same thing. It was an NDA, so he couldn't say what role it was. Just character in a suit, fights with a sword, takes place in space. That's what I was told. And I was like, I have a feeling I know what this is. And they're like, shoot an audition with some scenes. Like, they gave me some scenes. I want you to shoot an audition on an iPhone, send it to me, and I'll push it to casting, and we'll see what they say.
Yeah.
So I took it a step further, and I shot scenes from Rogue One. And do you know who David Baxter is from the 501st? I borrowed David Baxter's suit.
Oh wow!
Wow!
Full suit, and then I had my friend Bill Parker, who
Batman suit.
Yep. And my friend Bill Parker is a VFX artist at Barnstorm, and he also did Jedi with the GoPro 2, which I was in. He does VFX, and I asked him to help me with my audition tape and do VFX in it. I told everyone it was for a fan film because it's all NDA. So I was like, yeah, I'm auditioning for a fan film to play Vader, and they both hooked me up, and I shot my audition tape in the full suit with VFX. And I submitted that to the stunt coordinator. And then I was like, and here's my agent information. By the way, I don't do stunts, but I'm happy that you guys, found me. And I sent my agent information, and I sent it to him. And then there were crickets, and nothing happened. And I was like, oh no, I think I may have kicked the hornet's nest. And I may have said too much that I shouldn't have said or known. And I may have pushed the button. I didn't hear anything back. It was around Thanksgiving time, but it was also holiday season. So it was like, I forgot how much time went by. It was like 3 weeks to maybe a month and a half, somewhere in between there, where I heard nothing, and I was already forgetting about it. And then my agent contacts me out of the blue to audition for Disney for an unspecified project to play a general. And it's like a generic script, general. And I was like, ooh, I have a feeling I know what this is. So I had an audition on Zoom. This was still COVID time. Yeah, this was still COVID time. So I had my first Zoom audition, and then I had a Zoom callback, and then I had a third Zoom audition, and this was with Deborah Chow and with the stunt coordinator and the first AD and a few people from production. This was a big group Zoom chat, and at that time I had already felt that I knew what the role was. So on the third Zoom call, I had this Vader mug, and I kind of put it in the corner of the Zoom to get coffee. And they're like, do you know what you're auditioning for? And I'm like, I have no idea. And then they're like, you're auditioning for Darth Vader. And I'm like, oh my God, what? That's crazy. But I knew the whole time. I knew from the very beginning.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Like Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, and then afterwards we had one more camera test where I came to the studio and they put me in a costume that it wasn't an official suit, but it was a suit that they had on hand that I kind of fit in, but not really. And I did a suit, and then I did some walking tests in the suit, and that's when I got my first like big homework assignment from Deborah Chow, and that's where my journey began.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is
Wow.
awesome. I gotta give that a round of applause.
Wow.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was a crazy. This whole project was a crazy journey where you start believing in the Force.
Wow.
You know, you start getting the tingles. So here's the crazy thing. I'm Ukrainian. In Odessa, Ukraine, there's a statue of Darth Vader.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's like it's been all over on Instagram. I remember I saw it one time. So that's pretty cool.
Saw a couple with snow. Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's crazy that they had a Darth Vader statue, and Darth Vader happens to be Ukrainian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I'm telling you, like the ball was in your court. The Force just worked. It was on your side. The Force was.
That was kind of like manifestation. Like, you know, you're like, oh, this role will be mine. This role, mug over here, this will be mine.
Yes,
100%, 100%.
For sure. And you know, we have a bunch of questions that definitely we're gonna be asking. And I guess to backtrack a little bit, I want to ask you, you know, what we want to ask you, what got you into Star Wars and how did you get into Star Wars? Like, that's because, you know, we do podcasting. We do like a stream every week, and we've been doing this for now, like what, Dupree, like what?
Like 2 years, 3 years almost?
Wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always ask that question to everybody, but what got you into Star Wars? What is your biggest takeaway for like, what got you into
your first Star Wars moment?
For me, Star Wars was I had a different experience from everyone else. So I grew up conservative Christian, and I grew up like Slavic conservative Christian and kind of sheltered. So I wasn't really exposed to a lot of mainstream pop culture.
Okay.
So I watched Star Wars for the first time when I was like 15, 16. And at that time, I had very little cultural reference of what it was. I had seen like Darth Vader shirts. I had seen the Luke, I am your father quote, but I had no idea what Star Wars was or what Star Wars meant to the people around, to everyone else. Right. So I watched it for the first time, and I thought it was really cool, and I became obsessed with Darth Vader. But I didn't have the same experience that everyone else had. And it wasn't until I moved to LA that I felt the pull of Star Wars before I even got into it. So I liked it kind of as a casual fan, but not to the same level of other people. You know, so I watched it and I liked it, and I had only seen the movies once, and that was it. And then when I moved to LA, as I was getting steered towards suit acting, I started having Star Wars moments where, like, I was on Jimmy Kimmel because I was a suit actor. What? I got to play Chewbacca on Jimmy Kimmel with Harrison Ford, and I had scenes with Harrison Ford.
That is dope.
Yeah, and then afterwards, I did the Jedi with the GoPro 2 with my friend Bill Parker, and I got to play Darth Vader, and then I did some of the character study development. Then
I'd always wondered who that was. I never knew that was you.
That was me. Yeah, that was me. And then I got to work on The Mandalorian as a Corran trawler in the first episode.
Wow.
Like the opening scene of the first episode. This was like my third Star Wars moment, you know, where it just kind of felt that Star Wars was pulling me. And then the Darth Vader, the Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that's really where I dove into Star Wars. And I had played Knights of the Old Republic. I think that was the only Star Wars game I played, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
So awesome.
And then once I got the role as Darth Vader, that's really where I dove into the lore and the universe, and then I really understood what Star Wars was and how deep the sci-fi fantasy world is, and how deep the lore is, and how much it spans over time. There's a lot. Like I studied for like 5 months. I already forgot most of it, but I studied for like 5 months. Yeah, I studied for 5 months, and still I was like, wow, I know nothing. I don't know anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of lore.
Yeah. That's a lot, man.
There's a lot. Like, I mean, even to this day, I mean, you know, we're YouTubers and we put out things every day, and it's funny. You learn different things each and every moment and every time with Star Wars, because there's just so much to learn and so much to gain from it. And it's like, for example, like just watching like Andor, the last episode, there were so many Easter eggs, and just talking about the Rakata Empire. Not the average, you know, the average Star Wars fan doesn't know about that. And it's like, that's something you learn, and you gain that knowledge as time goes. And that's what I love about Star Wars, is that you're always learning. I mean, it's just like life. You're always learning. And that's what's so cool about this fandom, that you're always learning something new. You know,
and they always give back too. They give back to the people who pay attention to details with the Easter eggs, you know, where the people who are doing their homework get that extra little butterfly moment because they catch it. You catch the Easter eggs. For me, most of them are over my head because it's so deep in the lore. But the people who get it, they really get it, and that's like a magic moment.
Yes.
Was there any, like, when you, during the whole filming process for you, were there any like things you noticed like on set that you felt like, oh, I think that's an Easter egg, like when you were just looking around on set?
When I was on set, I was in the headspace of Darth Vader. So I spent most of my time in meditation. I spent most of the time meditation and away from the rest of the cast. I just kind of kept in my own bubble meditating, so that every time I would have any interaction with anyone else, I wouldn't hold back, and there would be no friendship barrier or anything. I could go be ruthless, you know. And that's like I wasn't a jerk on set. I just was to myself, in my zone, in my meditation. And I'm an avid meditator, so being in the suit and doing suit acting is where actually I learned how to meditate, because you have to learn how to be okay with not being okay, and pass your time, because most of the time I'm wearing prosthetics, you know, so I might not be able to eat, I might not be able to use my phone, so you're kind of just sitting by yourself. You can't read a book because you have weird claws or something like that. So you end up just being in your own space for long periods of time with just a fan, you know. So you get used to, or at least for me, I got used to meditating and being in my zone. And that's what I did most of the time, was staying in the headspace, in the Sith headspace, and then just meditating. So there weren't any moments, very isolating. And I learned, and when I was going through my journey, I had a very, very dark journey to find Darth Vader, because I wanted to go as far as I could into the character, and I wanted to do the character proper justice. You know, I knew, like, when I really realized what it was that I had booked, because at first I was excited, and then I realized the amount of pressure and the weight of the role, that if I had done it wrong, if I didn't do it justice, I would have disappointed a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, and it was for 40 years worth of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was the one chance to bring Darth Vader back more than like 2 minutes. I think after that point, he had only been on screen for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So in the history of 40 years, this is the one chance to bring Darth Vader back. And when I realized the amount of pressure, I was like, I'm not going to hold back at all. I'm going to go 100%. So I started turning down all my work, and I devoted 5 months, like 5.5 months, to just training for the role.
Yeah.
So I had a very, very dark journey into Darth Vader.
Right.
And in that moment, halfway through, one of the things I was doing was meditating to rage every single day, until my arms would tremble and I could feel my heart ready to burst. And then I would calm myself down. And I kept on doing this until I could get to the point where I could hit my peak and calm down within like 10 minutes, instead of before it would take me like 40 minutes to hit my peak and then like an hour to calm down.
Wow.
I got it down quicker, so then I could go in and out on set without like blowing up on people, without being a monster. But in that process, I ended up blowing up on my roommates, on my housemates. So we had a rule that whenever I was doing my meditation rage sessions, I would be outside and no one would talk to me, and everyone would just kind of leave me alone, because they knew that I was raging. And in that moment, I couldn't control myself, because I was really just trying to get as amped as possible and go into darkness as far as possible. So I spent that whole year of filming and prepping by myself, outside, most of the time just training by myself, meditating by myself. And then the solitude of the suit, and the solitude of meditating on set, it made me really appreciate both the loneliness that Vader feels, but as well as the power that he feels, because he's so self-sufficient that he doesn't need anybody or anything. You know, and I felt both sides of that coin, where afterwards it changed me as a person, because there was no need to find outside validation, because I had reached that point where everything was inside of me.
Right.
Like Darth Vader.
Right.
You know, but it's also very isolating to be Darth Vader, because you're in your own universe outside of everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess one of the questions I had to what you were saying to add on is, what did you use to study like this role, this character, you know, Darth Vader, who is, I mean, by far one of the biggest, I'm going to call him a villain, but one of the biggest, most iconic villains, I think, in every fandom. everybody knows who Darth Vader is. I mean,
everyone in the world, like every
Yeah.
fandom in the world, is aware
Yeah.
of who Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to know Star Wars. You know, like, the image, and you just know, like, okay, I know that's Darth Vader. I don't know
I
what
feel
it's
like
from.
I feel like you know the image and then his theme song, like you know the Imperial March, like you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that. And
Like,
I guess that's
what
the
homework did you use?
yeah. Like, what did you
to,
use to study this role?
Yeah.
So when I first got the role, I had that moment of excitement, and then I had the moment of panic.
Wait, one more question for that excitement. That was another thing. Is 2-1. What did you do to celebrate when you got this role? I think everybody wants to know that.
So I went to a bakery and I just got a bunch of everything that I've ever wanted to try, and I got like 10 of everything for me and my housemates, and all of us were just like, yeah, because as I was auditioning, they all saw me auditioning for a role, you know, and they knew the pressure and everything, so everyone was excited and everyone was vouching for me, and everyone in my house was helping me towards the role any way that I needed help. So it was like a big celebration, huge celebration.
Oh, that's
yeah. So it was just a bunch of, you know, like when you go to a bakery and there's all the obscure stuff you
Yeah.
really want to try,
Yeah.
but you're like, you know what, I can't eat 40 things. Well, that day I ate 40 things. I ordered everything that looked good. I ordered a bunch of everything, and that was
You had to
really
have a
good
happy moment. I had to have a happy personal moment, and then like some like angry moments later. Real angry moments later on.
Well, so yeah, so I got the role, and then I watched, what I first did was I watched all the original movies, and then I studied the mannerisms, and I broke it down. Like, okay, when he's walking on the bridge of the Devastator, he always keeps his hands behind his back. Okay, when he is in this mood, he chokes with one finger, 2 fingers. When he's in this mood, he chokes with 3 fingers. So I kind of broke down the mannerisms, but it all fell flat. It felt flat to me, and I knew that it wasn't enough. And as I was kind of walking through the framework of the character, it felt like I was cosplaying. And no offense to cosplaying, but it felt like I wasn't acting. It felt like there still wasn't that layer that I was looking for. And then I had a freak out moment, and I was like, oh my God, I think I'm over my head. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know, you know. So then I called my friend David Baxter, and I kind of called him to ask him about advice, because David really knows Vader as well, you know, and he cosplays Vader too. So I kind of wanted to ask him for tips of where to go. And then I started reading the lore and everything else, and I got super overwhelmed with everything.
Oh my
You know, and I got this huge wave of anxiety. So I called David, and we had this talk. And the first thing David says to me is, Dmitrious, this is your role. I'm not going to give you any advice, because I don't want to influence your character. Best advice ever.
Wow.
I was like, okay.
That really is the best advice.
Yeah. And then he's like, but what I can do is I could tell you what my experience was watching Star Wars for the first time. And because I didn't have that cultural context, and I wasn't like, Star Wars wasn't part of my culture growing up, because I was so detached from pop culture, that really helped me understand how important this role was, which made me more anxious. But he's like, he explained to me when he was a kid, I believe he was 12 years old, and he watched A New Hope. He watched the first Star Wars movie, and the fear of worrying that the lightsabers would cut through the screen or through the walls or through the floor, and just the fear and the excitement of experiencing Darth Vader, and the dogfights in space and everything. And the way he broke it down, it made me really understand that what Star Wars was game changing. And he explained that to me as well. Had been nothing at that point in sci-fi to that caliber of Star Wars.
Right.
You know, and when they introduced that, it wasn't just sci-fi, it was sci-fi mixed with mysticism. You know, so it was like philosophy. It was so many layers to not just sci-fi, not just action adventure, not just sword combat. It was also this layer of mysticism and morality and storytelling that really changed society. It completely changed him and changed all of society. And once I understood that, I was like, okay, this character needs so much more prep than what I initially thought. This isn't just a regular role where I have to memorize the mannerisms. I have to really, really become Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So from there, I broke it down, and I was like, you know what? I will never understand Darth Vader until I understand Anakin Skywalker. So that's where I started. I started as Anakin Skywalker, and then I watched the prequels as Anakin, and then I read Revenge of the Sith, which I really, really loved, because it really gave me a breakdown and love for the character. And once I started finding parallels between myself and Anakin, and I realized that I was Anakin, like 100%. Like my background, I trained under a Russian grandmaster in circus. So
Wow.
I've already, and I am one of those people who I've traveled the world seeking masters in their specific disciplines to take lessons with. So I found the best juggler in the world, and he happened to be in Mexico, and I flew into Mexico to take a workshop from him. You know, so in my circus path, I've always seeked out teachers to guide me, but not just teachers, masters. And like when you're in the presence of masters, there's this energy exchange that's hard to explain, because a master could tell you the same exact thing that someone else could tell you, but just being in the presence with them, you're like, oh, I get it. And nothing has changed outside of the fact that they have this wealth of experience, and they're so willing to give and you're so willing to receive, that somehow there's this energetic transition of, I don't know, information. So once I understood what it meant to train under a master, and also being an acrobat, someone who's really into his body and into training, I had a career-ending injury. That's what made me transition out of stunts, and I dislocated my knee, and it was a very severe injury where it wasn't something I was going to recover from. It was like I had a meeting with my doctor, and it was, you'll never run again, you'll never do acrobatics, you'll never do martial arts again. This is the end of your career. You know, you need immediate surgery, which at the time I didn't have health insurance, and the surgery wouldn't have fixed it anyways, because he explained to me that it wasn't just my knee, it was my entire body. I was born with a birth defect, so I have like a twist in my spine, and all my joints are misaligned. And they're like, once we lock your knee in, then the next injury is going to be your ankle or your hip, and it's going to continue spiraling through your body because the energy has to go somewhere. And if a joint is locked, they'll just go to the next joint. You know, but the shock is being transferred, and that's where the impact is whenever you flip or anything else. And that's why it was an injury I wasn't supposed to recover from. And I went into the deep end, and I spent 4 years studying Eastern philosophy, mysticism, alchemy, shamanism. I traveled everywhere. I went and did
You went like Doctor
ayahuasca.
Strange.
I know.
Completely Doctor Strange. Yeah. I went to Costa Rica, and I did a Sundance ritual, which is 4 days without food and water, dancing 6 to 8 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Full on. And they allowed me, a Westerner who wasn't part of their community, to enter. And I was the first person they had ever allowed who was not part of their community. And after, when I finished, I became an honorary member of the Chickasaw people. So in this journey of trying to heal my knee, I opened myself up to mysticism and to the great mystery of the universe, the force, if you will. And I went to Japan, and I chanted in Japan. I did everything you possibly could think of, and then everything else you couldn't think of. And I was like, I will do anything I possibly can to get my body back, because for me, being an acrobat was my identity. It was everything I had worked towards, and everything. And to lose it, I couldn't accept the fact that this was it.
Right.
So I understood with that level of fanaticism to get back what you've lost. You know, so I understood that at such a deep level. And also I grew up as an immigrant, as a Russian-Ukrainian immigrant, and I grew up very poor. So I knew what it felt like to have nothing and to work for everything. Right. So when I was comparing myself to Anakin and realizing that Anakin was a slave, and the fact that he, you know, becomes a Jedi is already crazy enough. And even as a Jedi, he's not allowed to own anything. He's only allowed to own his robes and his lightsaber, right? So the love he had for Padme is a love that's way beyond our regular love. It's a level of fanaticism, because all he could give Padme is love. That's it. Padme is royalty, is a queen, and he's a slave. And the hierarchy the difference is so severe, and she already has everything. Padme has everything she ever wants. It's not like he could go and buy her something that she wants or give her an experience. So all he could give her is his love. And that's where that fanaticism comes from. You know, and once I understood that level, and how similar it was to me, and how fanatical I am and obsessive I am about what I do, and how headstrong I am, and how arrogant I am, and hubris has always been my downfall. The way I dislocated my knee was in an acrobatic competition, where it was like instant karma, where I was extremely arrogant. And then the last 7 minutes of competition, I tripped. I just tripped, and I just dislocated my knee. And that was my career-ending injury. So I knew what it meant to fall because of hubris. I knew what it meant to be core and to work your way up through the ranks by just through grit and willpower alone. You know, I knew what it meant to lose everything physically and then to sacrifice everything you possibly have to get it back. So once I understood really who Anakin was, I was like, okay, I'm Anakin. I completely, and once I found Anakin as a character, the transition to Darth Vader became a lot easier, because whenever you play a villain, you don't play a villain as a villain. The villain isn't like, I'm a bad guy doing bad stuff. The villain is the hero.
Villain is the good guy in his head.
The villain is the good guy. Yeah, in his head, he's the ultimate good guy. So for me, it was really easy to transition to the arrogance that I already have, being a high level, like high caliber circus artist and an acrobat, and being one of the world's tallest and almost all the skills that I do. It was really easy to transition into that and be like, I'm the chosen one, and this is my divine path to heal the world for love. So for me, everything was flipped around, where the Jedi Council, the Jedi Order, they failed everyone. They didn't do their job. They didn't show up. They were superhuman. They had the ability to stop the whole war before it had even started. But instead, they were arrogant, and they didn't do anything. Their non-action allowed everything to spiral out of control. When they were mini gods on Earth compared to regular humans, they could have stopped everything. They didn't. And Anakin was always the one who dove into situations, and through his own action, he made things happen. So when he watched everything fail because everyone around did nothing, it was his, and he also was never brought to a level of master, which is always a chip on his shoulder. When he was a prodigy and better than everyone else around him, and they were holding him back, you know, suddenly the leash is cut and there's nothing holding me back, and I'm going to save the whole universe by bringing divine order, like Alexander the Great or any conqueror. I'm going to unify the whole universe by making, and that's going to end war, and it's going to end suffering in a sense. But I have to first create suffering to end suffering. So in my mind, that's how I played it. And when I was approaching the character, I started studying history, and I studied tyrants and conquerors in world history. And that really helped me understand the amount of ultimate power, but also what these people were going through, like Alexander the Great, like Hitler, when they were trying to conquer the world, you know, and that's really what helped me find the character.
Wow. Let me tell you, bro, you really are Anakin. You honestly are Vader. Like,
yeah.
No, I know, I'm saying.
You had your high ground moment in a sense.
Yeah. You literally need the robotics. So now it makes sense why you are Vader. It's great.
But I also had my youngling moment too. Ooh. And I understood that moment because I had a moment where I had a series of handstand students that I was mentoring during COVID. And then I got triggered and I blew up on them. I snapped. And because of this one moment, I disrupted the whole flow and severed a bunch of friendships at once. And, you know, in this moment, and I understood what it meant to have the youngling moment and look back, but live with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had the youngling moment too, and I was like, oh wow, I guess everything in life has shaped me to play this role because I understand it at such a deep level because it's me.
Right. No, for sure, man. For sure. I want to ask, man. I mean, with all this stuff, it's like you hear all this, and it's like, wow, what a journey you've gone through. Like, really, you really have, and it's like really, like I said, you really live up to the part or the T of being Darth Vader himself. I want to know, what was day one like on the set? That's what we want to know. What was it like being there when you got there? Explain, please.
So day one was the street scene on episode 3.
Wait, what? Are you serious?
Wow,
that's day one. That's day one.
Great question.
The first scene, just straight up like that.
Wow.
But at that time, I had already done 5 months of prep, and before I had got to set, I was working with a movement coach. At the studio space with a movement coach, Olga Sokolova. So I'd working with her, and then halfway through, I requested to be separated from everyone else. So then we trained independently of everyone else, and no one knew who I was. A handful of people knew who I was, but no one on set knew who I was. And no one on set had known how much I was training. So I was training 10 hours a day for 5 months. So day one, I was already burnt out before I had even started.
So you were done. Like day one, you got
from the training.
You were like, let's get this done. Like, come on, man. Like, let's just be done.
And then we put on the suit, and it was that first moment of meeting the whole cast. And it's the Vader moment of for me of when Vader gets introduced to the rest of the Sith, because everyone instantly, when I'm in the suit, everyone has eyes on me because no one knew that it was me playing the role.
Right.
So everyone got to meet the Vader for the first time.
Wow.
And it was just electric. It was such a magic moment. And then we did the street scene, and Deborah Chow played the Imperial March and had me come out to the Imperial March on the loudspeaker. It was really great because she's really good with music, and I'm really into music too, being an acrobat and a dancer. So we did the whole scene playing the Imperial March over and over again. And afterwards, every free moment, you'd have extras, you have other people come up to me and talk to me, and you had so much positive feedback, but also playing such a dark scene. And we shot that for 2 days, and then we had some more night shoots afterwards. I think it was like 3 or 4 days total of shooting that scene. And it was everything. It was the best introduction I could ever ask for any kind of film I've ever, or TV show I've ever worked on.
So you played the part when oh, go ahead, Dupree, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so wait, did the cast meet you as Vader first, or they met you like quick as Dmitrious and then Vader? Like how did they meet you?
I had met Ewan and Moses as Dmitrious. I had jumped into one of their sword training. They were doing a sword camp with all the stunt team, and because of my prior knee injury, it was my first time jumping into sword camp, and I did it for 1 day, and then they asked me how my knee was, and I was like, well, it's okay. And they're like, no, you're not going to do sword.
Yeah, you were trying to like cover it up. You're like, but I want to stay.
You don't even know. I mean, you do know how much I wanted to fight so bad. So when they told me I couldn't fight sword, what they told me was that I couldn't become a master. That's literally what it was. And for me, I had that Anakin moment of I'll show you. So I trained sword 3 hours a day by myself without a teacher, just swinging around.
Yeah, and I saw you posted that on your Instagram. You have a lot of videos of you doing like sword fight, like like.
Oh yeah, I've kept up with it. I haven't stopped since I started training because I fell in love with this. And now it's been like a year and a half of doing 3 hours a day. Now I'm at like 5 hours a day. But yeah, my whole goal is to master sword, not be good at sword, but to master sword.
All styles, you mean?
All styles, yeah.
Wow.
I'm starting off first with the body mechanics. There's a layer of the body itself of how clean your lines are. There's all the twirls and different transitions that exist, and those are finite, so you can actually learn them and objectively master all of them. And once I do that, then I'll start seeking out teachers in different styles, and see how far I could go, because it's my new obsession. I really fell in love with sword training it. But the sword happened because I couldn't train sword, because they didn't let me train sword.
Sword training is, like I said, it's pretty magical. The first time I ever took up fencing or kendo, it's a whole other mindset. You're like, wow, this is a crazy, interesting new little mindset right here. Like, what I was gonna ask you, what is your favorite style of sword play right now?
Right now, I haven't learned any of them. I've been in my own world exploring, so everything that I know is from self-exploration. I've taken 2 private lessons, and from there I systematically learned that, and then everything that I knew from juggling, because in juggling we have club spinning, and all the spin tech is already defined. So all the spin tech that already exists has already been mapped out in club spinning and in flow arts. So I systematically have been learning everything that exists already, because you could objectively master that. You could learn everything and be like, I have mastered everything that exists as far as twirling and transitioning. So that's been my own journey, but it takes a while. So I've been at it for a year and a half. I will probably finish maybe in a month of everything that exists that could be learned by myself independently. And then from there, I will start learning other styles. So I have zero introduction, actually. I know like a little bit of kendo, just a little bit. I know some basic Kali twirls and stuff, but zero actual experience of it. Yeah. So I'm an absolute novice. I just look really good. And that's the exciting part of the journey, is that I now have the ability to explore even deeper into this. I've only scratched the surface. So when I master everything that exists that I can, then I could begin as a beginner and start taking classes, and I will go from there and see where I go.
Not bad, not bad.
Wow, you're prepping for the next Vader role.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll see.
There we go. Question, talking about Vader and Anakin so much, did you actually get to meet him? And what was that experience like if you did?
Hayden?
Yeah, Hayden Christensen.
Yeah. I met Hayden Christensen when we were doing our last battle. So I was the suit actor. So every time there's a scene with the helmet on in the suit, it's me. So all the scenes with the helmet on in the suit is me. And Hayden and I weren't really in the same room most of the time because there's no need to be. There's no need to have two Vaders, like Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like they're not really in the same room, you know. So it was that when we were doing the cracked helmet scene was when I met Hayden for the first time. And other people on set had met them, so everyone's always excited about him. But every time he was there, I wasn't there. It literally was every time. Yeah. So I was waiting to meet him, and I had watched all the prequels, so it was all fresh in my mind. So I was fanboying really, really hard. I mean, Ewan was my first fanboy moment because I met him when they were doing sword camp, and I had one moment where I was like, you know, normally I don't do this, but you know, I'm gonna fanboy right now because once we start shooting, you're gonna get crushed.
What did he say to you? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I what I told him was that he, watching the prequels, the feeling of having a mentor or a teacher or like a father figure, that's the way that I saw him, and that it was an honor to work with him, you know, and he's the kindest person in the world, you know, so he was very gracious. He's the coolest dude also. He's very well traveled, he's very cultured, you know, so and me being Ukrainian, he was telling me about how he motorcycled across Ukraine by himself, which is crazy. Yeah, he's a really cool guy. And he was the one who was like, hey, he's like, why aren't you in sword camp? And I was like, oh, I want to be. He's like, jump in. So I jumped in. That was a cool moment to train with him for one day. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. By the way, great Jedi.
With Hayden.
Great Jedi says the big question is, can you get my man Darth Eternal a signed autograph picture of Reva? Oh my gosh! By the way, what was it like meeting her? Did you get to really talk to her? I don't know.
So I met Moses. During that same sword camp. Okay. It was Ewan and Moses were both in sword camp. So I met her then, and then we also had rehearsals beforehand. We talked a little bit, but not that much. I really distanced myself from everyone, because I wanted to have that pressure and that distance. And that's one of the things that makes Darth Vader is that no one is with Darth Vader unless they have to be with Darth Vader.
Correct.
No one's chilling with Darth Vader.
He knows about that.
Yeah.
even when we went to Celebration, like, leave me alone. It was like,
pretty much.
Like, go walk around, like, let me be. And he was his own person.
You're just in your own head, just walking, you know.
It's so funny. It's so funny because I would talk to him, like, because we rolled together. So I'm from the East Coast, so he was showing me the robes, and we're just there walking in Celebration. So first day was great. It was phenomenal. Like, he was as he is, as you see him here now. But then day after, he goes, it's Darth Vader. It's like you don't even exist, like literally.
Oh yeah,
I was not talking to him. It's like little contact.
I know exactly what he did because I did the same thing.
You're in character until the helmet comes off.
I kid you not. What did I tell you? I was like, you know what? You do you. I'm gonna go do me. I'll see you later tonight. Well, just make sure Darth Vader answer your phone, have Bluetooth on or something, but answer your phone later that night. So,
it's the most powerful thing and the most isolating thing to be Darth Vader. And Dupree knows because there's this moment where you could only hear your own breath, just like his breathing. Yeah. You're inside a fish dome that echoes your own breath. So you can't even hear other people most of the time. And you have very bad peripheral vision, so you really are using like a force sense to sense your environment, and you are drowning in the rhythm of your own breath. And it's one of the most isolating things, but also one of the most peaceful and powerful things, because when you're in the suit, you're in your own universe, and you're so disconnected from everything else that nothing can touch you. And you feel that. You feel that power, and part of that power comes from is that nothing can touch you when you're inside the suit.
You're right about
you're listening for the voice, and then you're trying to pinpoint if it's left or right, and then you automatically have to
say, okay, it's down. Dmitrious, that was me the whole time. I'd be like, yo, Dupree, and he'd be like this with the helmet. He look around, and I'm like, bro, I'm right
here. The slow, annoyed, like,
and I'm trying to hear him because he's like, I can't hear you. I don't see you. And again, like I'm just, I'm this 5'10" guy, he's like 6'7", 5, I don't know. And he can't see me. He's just like looking up into space, like, yeah, well, no, I don't see you. I don't acknowledge you right now. So I'll acknowledge you later. It was funny. It was awesome. But,
Did you can't really hear because of the breathing. Like, did they have the breathing for you, like when you were in costume and character?
No. So I did a lot of exploration and training. So part of my training was hyperventilation and using the breath to build rage. Wow. Using the breath to build rage. So the breathing was added later, but you see the movement in the suit, and that's all me. Learning how to breathe deeper through my chest, through my lungs, to make the suit itself expand so you see the life in the suit. So it doesn't feel flat. And then a lot of the times I had a really hard time hearing people. I'd have an earpiece in. And in the beginning, when I was rehearsing with Moses and when we were rehearsing, we found that when I spoke the lines, it just didn't read as well because it would make the helmet shake, but also it was drowned out and it wasn't the same way. So we had a voice actor on set, Dorian Gregory, and he did everything on a loudspeaker and I would hear it in the earpiece. And then we would act in real time together. So it was a dance between myself and Dorian Gregory, and together we were playing the character. And sometimes, like his sound booth was right next to Deborah Chow's video booth, next to Video Village. So he would get notes sometimes before I would get notes, and I would get my notes through his performance. So if she wanted me to be more intense, Dorian would be more intense, and then I would be more intense. Or if she wanted me.
Oh, sorry. So did you choreograph like when you guys would do that, like just to sync up? Like
Nope. It was one of those things where when she described it, like, we're gonna try this, it sounded like it wasn't gonna work. It sounded like it was gonna be really hard and that it would be chaotic, that it wouldn't work. But it just happened that because I have experience performing live performance and doing improv to music, I'm really good at being in the moment and going off of musical cues. And then Dorian's voice, the resonance of his voice became the music that I danced to. So we had, like, him and I synced up so fast. We even halfway through, I taught him a little meditation workshop in my room. Like, we really synced up. He's such a cool dude, and we really vibed. And because we're on the same wavelength and the same energy, we just flowed. It just worked, and it worked perfectly, and it was seamless. It was one of those things that it shouldn't have worked, but it worked out so well. And it was such a cool experience to have a voice actor and a physical actor working together without choreography, without pre-planning anything. In fact, that's what made it authentic, was because I didn't know what he was going to do, and he didn't know what I was going to do. So I was hyper vigilant, listening to his cues, and he was watching the screen, watching my cues, and we were dancing with each other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually that I feel like that's a first. They usually really don't do that with like
it wouldn't work.
Stunt actor. Yeah,
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work unless you have an improv dance background. That's the only way it would work.
Yeah.
To be so hyper aware to make changes in real time. Yeah.
Wow. That's wow. That's a lot, man. I give it to you. Wow. I mean, I guess they really did cast somebody good. Go ahead, Dupree.
You did that. Did you do that whole scene with Riva, like the footwork with all that? Was that you?
Which scene?
The scene where Riva tries to like strike Vader, like, while his back is turned. Like,
okay. So I'm only the introduction and the exit of that scene. All the fighting is done by Tom O'Connell, the stunt fighter. Mine and Hayden's stunt double. Yeah, he did all the fighting in the suit. I just overlapped the intro. So the very intro is me coming off of the spaceship pull.
Mm-hmm. That
part is me. Into the start of the fight, there's a couple pickups where they cut into me, and then it's all Tom O'Connell. And so then when the sword is split and it comes in and stabs her, that's me.
Oh, that's so cool.
Wow.
You did the scene when he's walking out to the ship.
Yep.
Wow, that was a very powerful moment. I would have to I was very powerful. Because
you felt like Dave Prowse right there. It was like literally like you had to walk
David. Yep.
That's a specific walk.
David. So that walk was my homework assignment. That was the first homework assignment I got from Deborah Chow, was that we wanted to do a fusion of David Prowse. We really wanted to give David Prowse justice. And to bring back David Prowse and the energy that he brought, because some of it was lost from what's been recently animated, because what they added was a level of mastery and grace, but it lost some of the aggression and power that David Prowse had. So they wanted both. They wanted the power and the aggression. Like David Prowse has the Prowse stride. He has when people are walking next to him, they have to like jog to keep up with him.
Yeah, he was a big dude.
He was a big dude, but it was just his speed walk was incredible. Yeah, but then also what's been animated is a very graceful Vader. So what my homework was to fuse the two, and we created different levels of the walk. We had full speed, we had half speed, we had slow walk, different moods, different energies. And the biggest note that we had, and the biggest thing, was to not let the head bob and not let the shoulders move. So it would look like he's floating all the time because he's got mechanical arms and legs, and he's becoming the ultimate master. And that's that level of mastery of always holding himself here, knowing that he's a master and he's in control of himself and his body. So it took a lot of work, and that's what I worked with my movement coach mostly on was the walk and the breathing, to be able to do it on cue. And we had different levels of it, so that when we were on set, I was so directable, because Deborah Chow could be like, okay, 2% slower for this, more intensity this, and we had this whole Rolodex of tools to make me as directable as possible to play the role.
Wow. So my next question, I had one question. So I don't know how it was for you, but I get this when I suit up or whatever. Like sitting down is the worst possible thing, and if that sitting down in that costume is just not comfortable. But like, there's a scene when you get off, when you're in the chair, you're in the throne, you get up, then you walk to the window. How were you able to do that in that costume with like such quickness and everything? Because it's like, if I have to do that, I have to have like some help.
That's acrobatic training. That's a lot of the stuff. It really just was the perfect person cast for the role, and a lot of the things would have been harder for anyone else who didn't have the flexibility or the training. So I do handstands, and one of the things is there's something called the press handstand, where you lift up just using your core strength and your shoulder strength, and you lift up using only your muscles without jumping or kicking, right? And it's called a press handstand, but you really have to control through your core, through your shoulders, to connect your entire body. And when you stand up in the suit, it's the same technique but reversed. So when I'm standing up in the suit, I'm doing the press handstand. I'm engaging the core and I'm using my legs, because you're standing up at a 90-degree angle. It's like, it's almost physically impossible. And if I were to relax my muscles, my body would collapse. So I'm literally muscling through it by hyper engaging my core the way I do in handstand. That's how I did it. But if it was someone else who didn't have the training, I don't know how they would do it.
Because I've never seen anybody that's ever wore a Vader costume ever like get up with like such quickness or anything. So that's why we all were wondering.
But it's cool, because this compliments from you mean the most to me, because you get it. Like what I usually get is, oh wow, how does it feel to be in the suit? That must have been really crazy. What were you thinking? Those are the typical ones. But you're giving me these very detailed questions because you understand, and I understand that you understand. And it means a lot, because the kudos from you is from someone who gets it. So thank you.
Blessings, man. Like, like I said, doing this and everything, doing the stuff I do, like we were looking at you like, wow, he really did his homework. And it's like, it really shows. But you did, you paid good homage to like, Dave and everybody, but then you put your own spin on it, with your own like nuances and everything. And especially with you getting up out of the chair, that was just like, whoa, he can get up.
Thank you. But see, most people don't catch it, but you caught it. Thank you. Yeah, it's the details. It's the hardest part about playing this character was one that he's already established and he's iconic, right? And it was hard to not overdo the things that the character is known to do, and also to be able to hold this potential energy of this tension. And the way Deborah described it to me was like a Rottweiler on a chain, and you're always at the end of the chain pulling. So there's always this tension between you and everyone else, that at any moment in time you could snap. That chain could snap and you will just fly at them, right? And that was the tension that we were trying to show, but it's all done through subtlety. it's everything is extremely subtle. So all the choices are so hyper minimalistic that most people don't even catch them. They just feel them. They feel that it's Darth Vader, but they don't understand why they feel. And the reason they feel it is because of that subtlety, because the standing from the chair, because those moments. Yeah.
Body movement, cool. Like when it goes like sometimes less is more, and then all you need less body movements, and then you have the voice also. So
yeah.
Those together, like, you know, just does it at the end of the day.
Wow. That's awesome. Question. Did you by any chance get any souvenirs from the set when it was, you know, the last day?
I didn't get any. So everything was really strict. You know, everything, the NDAs and everything else. What I got was a pair of socks and a pair of tights, which is what. That's what I wore. That's what I wore every time with the suit. So that's what I got. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's terrible.
Screen you socks and tights. There you go.
Oh man, Dupree, we're gonna have to one up that eventually. If we get
you have to give me 2 pairs of socks and 2 pairs of tights.
Who knows? We might even get you a lightsaber.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Well, that is true. Man. No, that's damn, man. That would have been nice if they gave you like a stunt saber, like, or something. Like that would have been so.
Yeah,
cool.
I was thinking maybe like, oh, they'd let him take a saber.
Yeah.
You know. No, but I don't imagine the costume department. Yeah, with me, I had a different relationship because I didn't go through the sword camp, so I only got the hero saber. I only held the hero saber. I never held the stunt saber. I know though there was a couple scenes. There's a couple scenes that I overlapped with the towards the end because I told Deborah. Halfway through shooting, I was like, hey, by the way, I'm still training in sword. I'm training myself the whole time. I was like, if you need me, you know, I'm more than happy to jump in. And when we're shooting the last battle, there's a few moments that she allowed me to do a little more. So like 1% of the fighting is me. And I'm happy about that 1% because it would have been 0.
Awesome. Did you see yourself like in that fight scene?
Nope.
Like if you
not at all. Because it's cut and done so well that I can't tell. I just know the scenes that all the scenes leading up to it and coming out of it is me.
Did you get?
There's the moment when they're standing up between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, and he just runs in. That's me.
I see. Okay. So they let you ignite the lightsaber, kind of.
Oh yeah. It's always me igniting the lightsaber.
Okay.
Were you there for the whole battle? Like, did you get to see? Even though when you weren't there, like though you weren't before, you saw the whole thing go down.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome, man. What was that like? What was that experience like seeing? By the way, like let's talk about this. I feel like we haven't even touched this.
Yeah.
This was the fight of the century. This was the 2.0 from Revenge of the Sith. This was the fight that, you know, we wanted for years to see, that middle from obviously Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. What was that experience? And you got to witness it being there. What was it like for you? Chills, like what? Like explain that.
Well, first of all, there was a lot of tension leading up to it. So as we're getting closer to the final scene, everyone behind the scenes was training extra for this battle. Wow. So the entire stunt team was training extra. Tom O'Connell was training extra. Ewan was training extra. And because all the stunt people and all the other actors were training extra, I was also training extra, even though I wasn't fighting. But it was this tension of like, it's going down.
Right.
You know, so closer to it, I was already training like 4 hours a day, hyping myself up for this battle to confront my master, friend, brother, father, you know. So there's this tension, and then also I had played in the suit the majority of the time, so I knew the restrictions of the suit, of really how hard it is to see here. Like we had the lenses are tinted yellow, so if there's any kind of light, everything gets washed out. So if there's any kind of light, it's blinding. It's really crazy.
They're tinted yellow, but they look red on screen. So on the inside,
they're red on screen, but the inside they're tinted yellow.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
So whenever there was lights, like in the street scene, when I do the force push and or when I do the choke for the kid and I break his neck, his name is actually Bruce. He's a stunt actor.
Wait, that was
when I break it, it's all me. It's all me.
Oh my God! Oh my God, you broke his neck. What's wrong with you, man?
That was
it felt so good. It felt so good. No, yeah, I'm the suit actor. Anytime it's the suit, it's the full suit. It's
Right,
me.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
honestly had to
in
be one of the most brutal Vader
I
moments you've ever seen.
know.
Like with with the you did it with like the thumb, right?
it was this. It was a quick wrist.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're like,
okay.
Yeah, it was just
I was
yeah.
like, damn.
So when he's running out and I force push him first before I break his neck, I actually couldn't see him. I couldn't see him at all because of the lights. Like the first time we did
I
it, I was
believe
like,
it.
they're like, when he's right here, you're gonna force push him. I'm like, I don't even see him.
I don't
He's
know
like
where right
standing on his
here
mark.
is.
I'm like, he's like, okay, he's gonna yell, and I'm like, I don't really hear him either. So then that was the first day actually when we realized we could remove the lenses. And when there were
Wow, okay.
scenes when the camera wasn't on the face, we would remove the lenses and then you could actually see and your skin could actually breathe for a second. You could kind of hear people now. So I knew how hard it was to see and I knew how hard it was to move uh, as Vader. So when I was watching Tom O'Connell do the fighting, it was one of those moments of getting chills of both witnessing Darth Vader and having like a third eye perspective of myself, like
Yeah.
almost an out of body experience because in my mind I'm Darth Vader and I've been training and hyping up for this moment the whole time. But two, also watching him glide in the cape and watching him able to do the choreography was mind blowing. It was mind blowing because the people only Dupree understands how hard it is to move in that suit. And with Deborah Chow, we do everything in one take. We do everything these long takes.
Long
So
choreographed dance.
yeah, long choreographed dance.
Yeah.
So we're doing the full fight choreography. They were doing it every single time.
Oh, wow.
It's like a minute and a half for each time, then they would reset in a minute and a half and reset in a minute and a half. And just to do it blind. And there were moments like where he would trip on his cape or he would trip over something because you can't
Yep.
see anything below your peripheral. For me, if anyone is standing within 6 feet of me, they disappear. If they're shorter than me,
Wow.
they would completely disappear out of my peripheral. I would not see them. So it was one of those moments of really watching magic happen because you see someone who's trained, who like with my own journey, he had his own journey and he had I don't know how long it was, 3 or 4 months of sword camp that they did
Right.
to the choreography
Wow.
to bring that battle.
Wow.
So it was cool. It was you getting chills of watching a master of their craft do their job, and also watching a third eye perspective and knowing that together we're creating this character and that everyone is bringing their mastery. Like I spent the whole time mastering every mannerism, the walks, the breathing, the movement, mentally and emotionally and psychologically bringing me to the place to play the role. He worked on the fighting, and then also Hayden Christensen worked on the emotional depth of that reuniting with your betrayed master friend. It was a lot. I mean, there's a lot of emotions on set. There's a lot of emotions of really feeling these moments and having people work together for the greater goal of creating the ultimate character.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool. It was those moments. Yeah, we all knew that we were making history. While we were shooting, we knew we were making history.
Yeah.
That was part of the pressure of the shoot, but also the excitement was
Right.
that while we were on set, there were so many Star Wars fans were in cast, in production, background. So everyone was role playing their Star Wars moments. There's like 4 people that I would repeatedly force choke whenever I see them, or force push them, So we had all these moments where we're all kind of living out our dreams, and we all knew that we were doing something bigger because it was part of history.
Right.
Like there's a lot of Star Wars happening, but this one was very special because it united the prequels with the originals, and we all knew we had one chance to do it, and no one held back at all. Everyone went as hard as they could to bring it.
You guys definitely look like you went very, very hard, and it shows in a lot of different ways.
Thank you.
It does, and I want to ask you. I know there's been like kind of mixed feelings with that, and how with the series overall. I'm sure and you've heard of it.
Yeah.
How do you feel hearing kind of like the divisiveness on the series and on how people received it and what they wanted it to be or what it should have been? Like, what's your take on that? Like, do you think that it was done the way it should have been, or do you think it's kind of like what I guess the fandom is saying, how this could have been done better or this could have been done better? Like, what's your take on that, being behind the scenes?
My take is hindsight is 2020. Like anytime I do any kind of work, I'm always doing my best work. I'm always giving my best work, right? But if I look back at a video from a year ago of me doing handstands or martial arts or anything, I will always have a million critiques of like, oh man, I could have done this. This moment could have been tweaked differently, because we always seek improvement, right? But when the negative criticism came out, it was so hurtful, because for me, it wasn't just people that were famous. These were all friends of mine from set, or people that I knew personally.
Yeah.
Right. So when people are bashing Deborah Chow, I'm like, Deborah Chow is my queen. Like, she's my favorite director I've ever worked for. When people are talking smack about her, I feel it.
Well, and that's that's one of the things. I'm so sorry. It's funny you mentioned about Deborah Chow, because I want to add to what you're saying, and we've spoken about it before, me and Dupree. It's funny because she came out once and she had said, you know, she wants to make this her version, right? Like this series, she wants to make it her version. You know, she doesn't want to do what George Lucas. She can't replicate what George.
She doesn't want to do what John and Dave are doing. She wanted to make this her own baby.
Right. So it's like, you know, you have to really, I guess, as in the fandom, you have to remember and understand that this isn't going to be George Lucas. This isn't going to be Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau. This is Deborah Chow. You know, like, this is her version, and this is what we got. And I mean, I personally, I mean, I know, for example, I'm going to bring up Andor. I know people are in love with it, infatuated with it, and are talking about how this is the Star Wars that we needed. But, you know, it's like we forget that we just got a series, the Kenobi series, that we've waited for so many years. I mean, I know I was dying to see Ewan McGregor reprise the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, seeing, you know, Darth Vader come back. I mean, that was it.
That's what I was waiting for mostly.
Yeah, I mean, that was the goal, was to get. And it's like, to hear the devices, and again, like, I know, look, like you said, Dimitri, I mean, you can get things differently, and you're always going to critique when you see it, like, I guess, a year or two later, right? You look back. But I mean, overall, I mean, how much more could you do? You guys,
that was the thing, was that everyone showed up as hard as they could. So I knew from my own personal experience, there was nothing, and that was my also thing going forward, was that I was bracing myself for negative feedback.
I mean, you have to. You have to.
I had worked so hard, but I was like, you know what? That was my absolute best. You know, that was literally, there was nothing I could have done better than that. And I know that everyone,
we were watching it, and honestly, it was like there was like no. I felt like there was no Vader issue at all in the show. If anything, it felt like it was like he was perfect. Like Vader's whole character in that show was perfect.
Thank you. But what I'm saying is that everyone showed up like that. It wasn't just me. Everyone showed up like that, and in the moment, we all did our best. We did our best, and I think a big problem is that people, when with the leaks and everything else, people create a fantasy in their mind, right? And when this fantasy isn't met, right, they're going to be like, well, 3 minutes in, I want to see this right here. And when that doesn't happen, there's a level of pain, of disillusionment, of expecting something and not having that met, and that is felt as physical pain, right? So people created this fantasy, and when it wasn't met in their mind in small little bits, then it was devastating. But also, because of the internet and the culture that we're in right now, everyone immediately wants to bash everything, and to like, okay, I did not like this one moment, and I'm going to tell the whole world that I hated this one moment. And that creates a negative spiral loop, like a negative feedback, where people start reading all the worst things, and then the opinions that they have aren't opinions they've created themselves from the experience, but they've adapted the opinions of other people. Whereas what I told people in the beginning was like, hey, don't judge until you watch the whole show, because the part of what people didn't like was the slow build and how weak Ewan was represented, how weak Obi-Wan was represented, but that was necessary for the final battle. You have to go through the hero's journey.
I agree.
To experience it.
I agree.
They do that with all the characters. They did that with Boba. Boba was a side character who was badass and everything else, and then once he got his own show, they had to have the hero's journey to make him weak, and then to show him out.
You know what's funny?
And then there has to be a villain's journey, and that's necessary for proper storytelling. But when you're waiting a week at a time, and the episode didn't hit as hard as you wanted to, people instantly got bashed in without realizing there's a big picture. Like if you binge it now, the show moves so much better if you binge all 6 episodes.
Let me ask you this question. Maybe this is, I think this is the reason why, and I'll ask you for the Kenobi series. And again, Dupree, we've talked about this, and I think this is a really good question. Do you think that this should have been better off as a film rather than a actual TV series, because I think that's what made it worse. I think this, with it being the grand stage of Kenobi and Darth Vader, I think people really wanted to see this better on the big screen. In my opinion, that's what I think. But I want to hear your take. Maybe that's why. And I think the buildup when we talk, because for example, right, talking about a buildup, look at the Andor series. I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I'm okay with it, but it's just very much character development, dialogue, and it's a slow burner. But you get Kenobi, it's a build up, but you still have a lot more action in it. And I just felt like with Kenobi, maybe it would have been better off as a movie. But go ahead, your take.
Well, so first, the comparison between Kenobi and Andor is that Kenobi, these characters are beloved.
Right.
Right. So you're talking about beloved, like these characters are like family members to some people. And that's
Right.
what made it hurt so bad. And that's what made so much conflict with the show, was that people loved the characters so much and didn't want to be disappointed and had this high fantasy version. I personally think that it was made the way it should have been made. If we made it as a movie, it would have been a different experience. It may
Right.
have moved faster. It may have hit harder because you had less details, but we wouldn't have been able to put in the amount of level that we did with Vader. We wouldn't
Right.
have put it as much. We did as much Vader in this series as all three movies combined. That's how much Vader we had. It was like, I don't know how much it was, like 23 minutes or 30 minutes of just Vader.
Yeah.
If it was a movie, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Same with the other characters. To give it proper build, it just would have been faster exposition, faster action, faster moving for sure, but it would have been a different experience. For me, my take is still that we created what we created. We created with the best intentions. Everyone showed up the best, and that's the product that we have. And people either like it or they don't like it, but people should experience it with an open mind for themselves.
Right.
Because people were reading these negative comments before they were even watching it, and that would influence how they would perceive it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there were so many leaks. Like, I remember the one leak that I showed to Dupree, actually. The one leak with the scene where you see Kenobi and Vader doing the force push scene, and then they both go back. Remember that one, Dupree, where they're doing that, and then like that spiraled out on the internet.
That was leaked.
Yeah,
that was leaked.
that was leaked.
Oh, whoa!
It was on Instagram.
It was
everywhere.
It was on. Well, no, it was on YouTube first. Remember, I sent it to you, and you were like, because you had confirmed it. Because I mean, again, because you know about film more than I do, and I asked you, I was like, dude, is this legit? And you were like, yeah, man, this is the thing. This is the real deal. And it was like it like blew out, and you saw. I mean, and it was good, and because there was a confusion if it was fake or not. Because again, you saw more. You didn't really see Ewing. You saw the stunt actor that was doing it. That was doing that.
Yeah, Tom O'Connell. That was Tom O'Connell.
No, I'm talking about the one that did
Kenobi. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right, you saw that one. So I think that's why like everybody was kind of like, but that was one of the things that I think with Kenobi, the problem with Kenobi was there was too many leaks, so everybody already knew what was coming, and that's what I think ruined the show. Kind of going back what you were saying, the leaks ruined it because
ruined it. Yeah,
because
the leaks ruined everything. Yeah,
Andor, we had no leaks. Nothing got leaked. Think about it. Nothing. I never saw a scene for Andor leaked, and all of a sudden it's like the best show since I don't even know what since probably the original trilogy. Now everybody makes it seem like. So I mean I don't know, but overall I mean I don't know. I guess leaks.
Well, see, but leaks ruin things, but also having no expectations. Andor had no expectations. I mean, people were excited, but it had no expectations. It wasn't. Kenobi was a special show because it was bridging the two gaps.
Right.
So people were so like hyper paying attention to the show. Everyone was trying to leak. The best thing that I did to my own detriment was that no one knew that it was me playing Darth Vader, and that was one of the biggest secrets. And I was very diligent about covering myself up all the time. Anytime I was anywhere, anytime I walked through anything, to make sure that it wasn't leaked. Yeah, and then afterwards, no one knew that it was me playing.
They did a great job with you guys. Like nobody, I mean, none of us knew. I mean,
there was nothing until
nothing about
there
you
was
guys.
nothing.
They really
there was nothing until later on. But I mean,
but the leaks
prior
ruined
to
it,
the release, it was like these actors played Vader, and I was like, wait, what? So it was like right before, but there was nothing, no pictures behind the scenes or anything like that.
I think it was more shocking because everybody thought that Hayden Christensen was going to do a lot of the work, and then when it came out, everybody was like, "Huh?" But it was cool because it's like you see this, and it was like you guys were hidden so well. I think that's what made it like more like the hype more real too, you know? So because I remember when they came out with the Vanity Fair, that's where it came out that like Hayden wasn't really behind, you know, Vader or anything really.
But the end result is what we were looking at, right? The idea was that we're trying to make the best project. And
Yeah.
it was, do we make a worse project to appease someone's fantasy, or do we
Right.
try to make the best thing we possibly could make? You know, and that's what we did.
Sure.
We all tried to do the best thing we possibly make. You know, it would have stroked my ego so much to do the fighting, but it wasn't the smartest thing,
Right.
right? You know, so we had to separate each role so that each person could specialize in what they were doing, so that each person could bring their A game. So we had the best of every single world into one character, and then when you watch the character, you feel that as the character, that
Right.
it's seamless, and you feel like character is brought to life. If we had done it any other way, it may have not been to the level that we had it.
Yeah, I mean, and you
You
saw
know?
it. Yeah, the level was. I mean, like even just overall, the dialogue between you know Kenobi and Vader. Just when they're like, I mean, I get chills. I start choking up when they're talking. When he's like, "I'm sorry, Anakin." Like, it was just done so well, and
People were crying on set.
I was crying.
Everyone, like the energy was, it was crazy. It was.
I mean,
bonkers. It was,
yeah. I mean, let me
So
ask
wait,
you.
you saw that whole scene play out right there with
Yeah.
with the broken head?
Yeah,
Wow.
I was there because I matched the part where he gets hit, and then he falls to the floor, and there's that slow rise. That's me, and then that's cut into Hayden Christensen. So I'm the thread line that matches both Tom and Hayden together to make us seamless in the fight. So all like the intimate acting moments in the suit are all me. So that's when I got to meet Hayden, and it was a really magical moment. But there was, I mean, when that was shooting, everyone was crowded around every monitor. You know, there was so much excitement. You could literally feel it in the air. It was like electricity. Yeah, it was a crazy moment.
Wow.
Is there
It was
anything I have to
beautiful.
ask you? Is there anything that in the show that you did that was cut out? I mean, you don't have to tell us if there's something you can't.
Yes, there was, but I can't tell you. Yes,
Oh,
but we
come
shot.
on. Please, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Is it something that would have been like really?
I'm not going to answer anything else. But then anytime you film a movie or a TV show, you always film more than what is shown.
Damn, that would have been great. Damn, that's wow.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
But I can't say anything else yet.
I know. It's so
now
hard.
you have us wondering over here. I'm like, what is he talking about? What happened?
I mean, I would assume. I mean, you have to assume, or well, I mean, everybody. I'm sure had. Let me ask you this: you met the whole cast, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. Well, whenever anyone who was in a scene with.
Oh, so you didn't get to meet like young Leia, like the young Leia.
I met young Leia. Yeah, I met her.
What was she like?
I mean, she's really, really intelligent.
Yeah,
she is a smart girl.
Yeah, I had questions. I mean,
yeah, she was very mature. She's very mature and very intelligent.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, she seemed. I mean, she seems beyond her years. Like, she really seems like the girl that Kenobi says, like, you know, how old are you? Like, she really seems mature. And that was one of the things I think when they were talking about the when they talk about what the behind the scenes for Kenobi is like, that was one of the things they talked about, that she was very well casted, and Ewan got to meet her, and he really enjoyed working with her. So I thought that was awesome, really, really awesome.
Did you go to Celebration with everybody else too?
No. So I had such a dark journey. So when I finished the character, halfway through shooting, I started channeling Darth Vader, and I stopped acting. And when we wrapped up, Darth Vader experiences an ego death, you know, at the end of the show, and then I experienced that as the actor, and I carried that ego death into my regular life, and I couldn't stop channeling Darth Vader even when we finished shooting for months, where it was like a bipolar experience of feeling Darth Vader crawling out of me, trying to lash out at everyone, and I felt like I was losing control. It was such a dark psychological journey for me that I went on like a 3-month spirit journey to shake the character and reset myself and find myself, because I had spent almost a year in darkness and in isolation, and it had changed me in a very negative way. It was a very, you know, so when when I got to reshoots, I actually didn't want to do the reshoots at first because I was afraid of getting triggered and I was afraid of having the character come back. And even after we finished, when we did the reshoots, I made peace with the character, and then afterwards I felt better about it. But I still was afraid of being triggered. So I didn't even watch the show when it came out. I waited like a month or a month and a half. And the good thing was I didn't see any spoilers or anything, so I got to experience it for the first time. But yeah, I stayed away from it because I wanted to distance myself and not get triggered because I was having like PTSD kind of things relating to the character of the amount of, like, when I put on the suit during reshoots, instantly the rage like came back because I was in that headspace for so long that it was habitual.
Wow.
The rage, the paranoia, the Darth Vader, I felt it all because I channeled it. And even at the end, when he had the ego death, I felt that ego death. And I had to recover from that ego death, which took months.
Wow.
So it was a really crazy, profound psychological experience as an actor to experience it. And I'm glad I went through it now that I'm better. But after we finished, I wasn't in a good place mentally. I was like borderline suicidal for a couple months.
Oh,
after finishing.
Wow.
Yeah. I went in such a dark place. And it was necessary for the role, and that's where you feel the role is authentic because it's authentic, it's all real. But also, I couldn't stop playing the character when we stopped shooting.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah.
I don't. It's crazy because, excuse me. I think of, like, for example, Heath Ledger when he studied the role of being the Joker for Batman. Like, you hear these stories of him. I remember I read one that he actually went into an insane asylum, like, to study, certain people's characteristics to understand the Joker's role. And it's like, I hear you talk about it, and it's like, wow, like, this is the real, like, day in a life of an actor, of what it really is to play these roles. And it's true, like, you make that come to life. And it's mind boggling. Like, you hear this, like, the fact that you talk about how, like, for a moment you were suicidal, and because you really feel the pain of everything that this man went through, of losing his wife, slaughtering children. I mean, how could you not be so angry at yourself for doing those things as well, right?
But also the warped, it's the betrayal, really. The betrayal with Obi-Wan Kenobi of someone who is someone that you loved at one point and now you hate, right? And that switch is like a psychological warp where he's like a straw man and he blames him for everything so that he doesn't have to take responsibility.
Right.
It's not him who killed the younglings. It's because of Obi-Wan Kenobi that the younglings died. Everything's a projection, but also the feeling of being an ultimate master, and you finally reach that level of mastery and then experience an ego death that you're not as good as you think you are, was that, like, rocked me, because I personally am on my own. Like, I trained under a grandmaster, and I'm on my own quest of becoming a master in my own right. And that's like my life purpose that I've decided for myself, is that I want to reach a level of mastery in all of my disciplines, sword being my newest one, in handstands and juggling and everything. So I it's so a huge part of my identity. So when he felt that, I felt that. And then also the darkness that came with playing the character and experiencing all the pain, I felt that too. Yeah. And it was like one of those things where we finished shooting for like a week already, and I was in such a depressive mindset, and I had like shut down completely. And then afterwards, I spent months just trying to feel happy again, because all I felt was rage, anger, betrayal. I had all these emotions that were coming out. And then any interaction with anybody, I wanted to always backhand the person. I wanted to be aggro. I wanted to fight everybody, and I had that, and I had this chip on my shoulder. And I'm someone who's very devout in meditation, so I'm able to hold myself back. But as the time was progressing, I was feeling like I was getting weaker, like I couldn't hold it back anymore. And I was getting closer to the edge, and I was afraid of losing control, and that's where it got a little scary for me.
Right.
But also I had never shown up so hard for a role, because it was such a huge role that I had spent in that headspace for like 9 months of like 24/7, just eating Sith content, Vader content, being that mind space, meditating to rage, holding on to the rage as long as possible as a source of strength. Using all of that was great, but then I didn't know how to take it off. I had learned how to put it on, but I'd never played a character so deeply that I was stuck as the character. I've heard other actors talk about it, but it was my first time experiencing it. Now I'm a little, I know myself a little bit better, so now I know how to approach it differently, because the way I had approached it wasn't necessarily healthy, but it got me where I needed to be to play the role.
Right.
So, do you think like after this, especially if they do season 2 or anything else, you after going through this, ordeal, like getting the character, would you want to do the role again, or would you think, okay, I'll do it, but I have to do this, dedicate myself to doing this, training like this again? Like, would you
It would
want
be
to?
it would
Would it
be
be like,
both.
oh
I found, because I found the character, and once I was able to channel the character, there was no need to search for the character anymore because I was the character. And
Right.
when we had reshoots, I had just started feeling good again, like for like 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks, I was kind of happy. After like 3 months of anger, depression, jealousy, betrayal, everything, feeling every complex emotion. Finally, I was just kind of okay. Not okay, just kind of okay, and almost feeling like myself before the role. And we did the first suit test, and I put on the suit, and I instantly felt all the rage come back, and I fought it off. And I was like, okay, I don't want to go into that dark place. I don't want to get pulled back into it. So I fought it off. But then the first day of reshoots, I put on the suit, and everything came back. And it was like within like a minute already, the storm, because it's habitual of like putting on the character and the suit are hand in hand. And a lot of the stuff in the suit, the meditation and my own character work was done in the suit. So when I put it on, it was like muscle memory. Instantly, there was this storm in my solar plex of just rage, not anger, but rage, like deep, deep, deep rage. And it was building bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to fight it anymore. Here we go. I'm going back to being Darth Vader again. And there was a moment where it's big and big and big, and then I hear a voice in my head, and it's my own voice. And the voice said, I'm a monster. And I heard myself say that, and I wanted to rebuttal it, but I couldn't, because to find the character, I had to find parallels within my own life to make myself the character, to really understand Darth Vader and Anakin. So like when I told you I had my own youngling moment, I had my own youngling moment. I had all these moments, and they were really great for finding the character. But in that moment, I couldn't rebuke it and be like, no, I'm not a monster, because I'd found enough memories and experiences in my own life that made me realize that I was a monster.
Wow.
And when I realized that I couldn't rebuke it, I smiled because it was true. And in that moment, the storm stopped. It just went, and it became instantly quiet. And I made peace with the character. And what I realized was beforehand, I had separated my mind into two separate entities. There was Dmitrious, the actor. There was Darth Vader, the character. And what I realized was they were both the same person. That both myself and Darth Vader exist within me. And the conflict that I was having wasn't with the character, it was with myself. And when I had accepted the darkness within myself, I made peace with the character, and I stopped fearing the darkness. So I feel like now, and then I was able to go darker. And when we're doing the reshoots, I was able to go further without being afraid. So I made peace with the character then, and now I feel like if I play it again, I now have enough understanding of myself and the character to be at peace and to go as dark as I want to and be able to come out of it without having that conflict. But when we're doing the reshoots, or not reshoots, when the show came out, I didn't want to be triggered. I wasn't sure if I was going to get triggered or not. So I kind of held off for a little bit, and I didn't want to watch it even because I didn't want to be triggered until I started getting positive feedback from the fans, and I went to my first convention, and I got so much positive feedback that I became curious, and then I wanted to watch it, and then I watched it, and then enough time had passed that I was separated myself from the experience, and I enjoyed it for the show that it was, rather than critiquing it or experiencing it as the actor. So so I would play it again, and I think now I have enough tools and understanding of myself to be able to go as far as I wanted to into the darkness without fearing of getting lost like I did the first time.
Wow. Well, I definitely hope they do a season 2 or another project, and you're part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Sure.
It was a crazy journey. It was such a crazy psychological and spiritual journey for myself to both finding the character's anxiety, you know, mastering the character, playing the character, not being able to stop playing the character, becoming scared of the character, making peace with the character, and now finally I'm here where I've got both ends of the experience. I'm back to feeling like myself again. I'm not, I don't feel the pull of the darkness like I did before, because I went as far as I could. Like, I meditated into rage every single day. I did the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. It was not psychologically healthy at all, but I did it, and I don't regret doing it now. But in that journey of recovery, it was very difficult.
Yeah. Well,
I got one last question. Yeah, I was gonna one last question before we get ready to wrap up. What was that first moment putting the costume on, putting the whole suit on? Like the first, I don't know if you did costume test or what was it, but what was
The
the
first moment was the costume test. When we did the costume test, and it wasn't the official costume. It was when we were doing our walking camera test. And I was in the suit, and I had one of the ADs was with me, and he was like, "Wow, I'm getting shivers every time I hear the boot steps."
Oof.
You know, and then I met a couple people, and everyone was, you started feeling the excitement. I really started to understand what this character meant to everyone. And the more I wore the suit, the more I felt it, the power of the suit, of how much of a cultural impact it has and how it affects everyone else, of the power and respect that comes with it, but also the understanding that that we're living a dream. You know, like, we're all living a dream, which is a magical experience. Yeah, it was cool. It was profound. It was really profound. You know, and being, especially that first day, episode 3, the street scene, of meeting everyone for the first time and seeing the reaction from everyone, and it was the same reaction. It was that same feeling of really understanding the magnitude and the gravity the suit carries.
Yeah. Wow.
That's amazing.
It is truly. I have to say this was an awesome experience to have you on, man. I mean, wow, you have changed my perspective on Darth Vader, other than Darth Hater over here. It truly is amazing what you've done for the community and what you're still doing, obviously. And I guess the last question that I have for you.
Wait, you've said the last question 3 times.
This was this one. No more Star Wars. Overall, what do you have coming up? Do you have any, like, what are your things now after Kenobi? Like, do you have any projects coming up? Like, what are you doing after now, post Kenobi, if you don't mind me asking?
So post Kenobi, after I had my whole experience as Darth Vader, I took a step back and I said I wanted to take a step away from acting for a little bit. Yes. And you know, I really, because I got to explore my own psyche, and that was cool, scary, captivating. There was a lot of, you know, complex emotions, and really I wanted to dive deeper in the craft, but I also wanted to take a step away. So sword training was what got me through a lot of things, because when I couldn't shake the character, I was rage training sword. I had all this rage inside of me, and I would just train sword till I was too tired to move. And that would keep me going every day, and that way that prevent me from exploding on people, because I could channel all my anger into something, and it was the sword. So the sword became a very symbolic thing for me, and I took it as my own circus discipline, and I started creating a whole performance style with it, and then I started training it as a combat style again. So my main thing is I'm going to become a sword master. That's my main goal. So right now I'm training like 5 hours a day in sword. And I'm creating my own sword style, which I call sword and shield style. And it's like a high fantasy sword concept that I'm
posted about it on your Instagram.
Yeah, I've been posting about it consistently. I'm still developing it. For the most part, I have the groundworks of it, but I think a year from now it's going to be something really cool, because it's something that doesn't exist, and it requires really a mastery of transitions and understanding twirls and two swords to really do it right. But the idea was, when Deborah Chow gave me another thing about Deborah Chow. Remember, we were talking about, this was Deborah Chow's vision. When she talked to me about Darth Vader, the way she explained the character to me is like everything, because I was asking her questions about, you know, how does the choke? Is it one finger? Is it two finger? You know, Deborah's response was, I want you to reach with your hand, and I want you to feel their throat, and I want you to enjoy it. And I was like, okay, that's where we're going. Wow. That's exactly where we're going. I was like, okay, so she's like, I want you to think of Darth Vader.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, we went there. We went there, and
Yeah.
she's like, I want you to think of this Darth Vader. One, everything that you've studied, throw it out the window. It's good that you know it to pay homage, but the main thing is that this is your character, and that
Yeah.
this is a prior character to what's been established,
That's what she
right?
wanted. She wanted it to
Yeah,
be
she wanted.
She
Yeah,
wanted
you're.
pre
She's like,
proto Vader. Yeah.
you're a young, arrogant Vader who has finally become the master that he wanted to be, right?
right.
So that was my prompt. And as I was teaching myself sword, because I knew I wasn't doing the fighting, in my
Right.
mind I said, well, if I'm the ultimate Vader, the ultimate most powerful Vader, finally become a master, how would I fight with sword? So in
Right.
that time, I conceptually created this ultimate sword style that was with two hands. At any moment in time, you could block any attack. You're completely impervious to everything. Like the ultimate master OP sword style. I conceptually created it. I wrote it out, and then I started training it. But it takes time to do it. So only now, a year and a half in, am I finally able to show the results of what I conceptually created in my mind a year and a half ago for the role of if I was the ultimate character, the ultimate Sith Lord in my own mind, what sword style would I fight with? Regardless of what's been established, if I'm the
Right.
ultimate Vader, this is the sword style that he would use. So now it's nice to kind of show the fruits of my labor. It took a year of just honing my basics to be good enough to even show someone what it looks like. It was just
Wow.
like conceptually, and I was trying to describe to people. They told me it wouldn't work because you have to be the level of ambidextrous you have to be is crazy
Right.
because you're doing two separate tasks that are not related to each other. There's a whole level of like brain training that requires you to be able to do things to that level of like complexity.
Yeah.
So that has been my exciting theme now is just really developing the style and mastering the style. It doesn't exist. It's something that I created, and I'm
Right.
also in the process of writing a book on meditation
Oh,
because
wow.
I've done like 7 years of my own exploratory meditation, and I ended up healing my knee through meditation. That's what
Yeah.
ended up healing it
Yeah, I know.
was learning my body, and I studied different meditation disciplines, and I simplified them, and I found the root level. So there's a few different concepts. I'm trying to write a book on how you can heal yourself by using the placebo effect, which is how I ended up healing myself, was learning how to stimulate the placebo effect. We all have this ability, and it's the same thing as faith healing in other religions and other cultures and other systems. And the main thing is that you have to, if you believe 100% that you're going to heal, you will heal, and we don't know why. You just do, right? And it's whether if I give you a sugar pill and you authentically believe that it will cure your cancer, then it will cure your cancer. The same way that if you authentically believe that someone will pray for you or a shaman will bless you or a priest will do something that you will heal, if you believe it 1,000%, then it actually will happen. And we
Mm.
have this ability within our own minds that's locked in there. And I was able to tap into that coming in as someone who was completely agnostic and didn't believe in anything, didn't know what I believed in, to going down this whole spiritual path and mysticism, to come out of it healing myself and knowing that anyone could do it if
Yeah.
they understood why it works and how to do it. And if they were able to approach it in such a way where you didn't have to believe in any kind of like you didn't have to believe in a certain type of religion or anything. You just had to believe that you could do it, and you had tools to invoke it. So that's one book that I want to write, and then the other book is more about different levels of meditation and how far I've gone, because I'm able to enter trance and enter like deeper states of consciousness through meditation because I've explored it so much as the character and as myself as well. So yeah, so I'm kind of trying to write that and publish my own personal work. I've also developed a training system which I call the Tao of training, and there's two halves: there's position theory and transition theory, and that's what I use to train sword. And it's a form of accelerated learning. It's extremely hard. It's the hardest way to learn, but it's also the fastest way to learn. So like in a year, I've almost mastered sword. In a year of training, where normally it would take like 3 to 5 years, and I've done it in a year because I've followed my own system that I developed. So I'm kind of exploring it further and trying to figure out how I could write it down and teach other people how to use it. So that's
Wow.
kind of been my passion project. I've kind of stepped away more from acting, just taking a break. I've enjoyed going to conventions and meeting the fans and meeting other people who like-minded people who were excited about the content and excited about the work. That has been a blessing. It has been a very beautiful experience meeting authentic Star Wars fans,
Yeah.
and having that ability and training sword and working on my independent meditation stuff has been everything. So I've kind of taken a gap year, and we'll see where it leads. I'm
And
kind of had my eyes set on Spawn. I want to play Spawn.
Wow.
Spawn fights with 2 weapons, and now that I've already played my first like really, really dark character, I kind of want to go deeper.
Ooh.
Now that I'm not afraid anymore, so I think Spawn would be a fun character to play.
That
You know, or Darth Revan, or Darth Revan would be fun to play too.
Wow.
I'll take Darth Revan. I'll take that.
Yeah, because then I get to explore.
Spawn is pretty dark, but yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'll take
definitely Darth Revan.
Darth Revan, I get to explore both halves of the character.
I think honestly, that'd be a great character for you with Darth Revan. I mean, you know, we know that he's studied freaking. He's been a Jedi in between, a Sith, and in between again.
Lost his memory, everything. Yeah,
he's and he has the ability to fight with 2 swords. He's ambidextrous.
Well, that too. Well,
that's a little icing on the cake. Yeah. No, I know. I'm just starting to like. I just stumbled upon Darth Revan, and I'm exploring that character, like learning about him, and he's fascinating. I really love to play him.
You replayed the games and all that?
I played the old coder, but I have memory loss from concussion, so I actually don't remember any of it.
Oh wow!
But I know that they're going to be introducing a new remastered version on Steam. I just saw something about it. So when it comes out, I'm going to get it and I'm going to play it. You know, and that'll be part of my exploration.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I mean, again, do you think that there'll be a season 2, by the way, of Kenobi? So you think?
I don't know anything. Even if I knew something, I couldn't say anything.
I know. But I mean, off of what you knew, I guess from the last day on set, is there some sort of potential? You know, it's not like you're giving us the answer, but like I guess from that last day being on set, do you think that Deborah Chow maybe has some, you know, there's some optimism on possibly doing a season 2?
I have no idea. What I can say is that I hope that they do a spin-off show. And I hope that they explore, because as I was exploring the content and the lore of Darth Vader, there is so much to Darth Vader.
Darth Vader in the comic books is a different beast. It's just untapped.
Yeah,
and I think it'd be really fun to explore that and not play the stories that people already know, but really explore his own journey of becoming the Dark Lord. And because he's OP, he will go and he'll fight wars by himself and conquer planets.
I mean, and that's the beauty of him. Like in the comics, he is that OP character. It's just again, we've talked about it. Disney will never touch that kind of a Vader. I don't
technically this time.
I mean, I hope we do. I hope we do. And if Deborah Chow was the one directing it, I would jump on board so fast.
Okay.
Yeah, but my experience working with Deborah Chow was a dream. She's my favorite director I've worked for thus far.
Wow. You think she can do the character justice going?
Oh my God, Deborah Chow would smash that character. She would do it beyond just like it was cool because she took a lot of moments with me to rehearse Darth Vader, you know, and she helped me really get out of my head of trying to play what people wanted to see of Darth Vader. Like you'll see that when we played it, we never did the arm cross, we never did the thumbs and the belts.
Right.
We didn't do any of that stuff because that didn't exist yet. Right. You know, it was still this character of Darth Vader finding himself. He hasn't found himself yet. And
I always wondered why you didn't. Yeah, I always wondered why you guys didn't do that.
Because that Darth Vader is a different, more confident, seasoned Darth Vader, right? He already has. It's right now. This is his discovery phase. He still hasn't found his groove yet. He's still trying to figure out his body. He's still trying to figure out. He still has something to prove. That other Darth Vader has nothing to prove. Right. That's why you have that Darth Vader. He's already proven everything. He's already proven it in the galaxy. This Darth Vader, the Darth Vader that I played, still has that arrogance of Anakin and still needs to show the world that he is a master.
Right.
He needs to show the world that he's a master. And where we left it in season 1, he experiences an ego death. I know because I experienced it in real life. And that ego death, it has a very what comes after an ego death is there's this thing where you surpass your initial abilities. Like here's where you were, and then you thought you were the best, and then you fall, and then you climb back up, and you end up here. You end up surpassing, like triple surpassing what it was. And by to reach that level of surpassing what you were, he has to go out and really prove himself. And I hope that that's what they explore, of really him going out by himself and becoming the Darth Vader that we see in episode 4.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a lot to explore with the darkness, with his own psyche, with his own conflicts as of him becoming that Darth Vader.
You really showed us like an epic, OP Vader pulling a starship out of the sky.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We thank you, and the fandom thanks you for that. And on that note, we want to thank you so much for hopping on, Darth Dmitrious. Again, it was an honor and a pleasure to have Lord Vader on. We're not worthy.
Thank you for showing up, man. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah, it finally happened. Well, thanks, guys. I had such a great time. I will see you guys at the next convention or signing event.
For sure.
And that was awesome. Meeting you was great. I'm really glad this worked out because of it.
Yeah, I was so happy to meet you too, man. I only went. I didn't. This time I went. I didn't bring my bucket out. I didn't bring it to wipe my face. Hang out with you guys and take pictures, but definitely next time. Next time.
Well, again,
sounds good. Well, it's nice chatting with you guys.
Yes.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you. Thank you again for hopping on. We really do appreciate it. Take care, man. Take care again. Thank you guys so much for hopping on, for everybody to be on. This was such an amazing experience and journey.
One of the best live streams we've had in a long time.
Yeah, better than Andor for sure. Can we admit it?
Okay, I'm out, guys.
Better than freaking later, dude. I mean, wow. What a class act. I mean, again, thank you. I mean, much respect for that dude. I mean, much honor. I mean, wow. I mean, this is like the aftermath, after hours now of it. I mean, dude, what a stream. What a stream. I mean, I
learned so much about that show that I did not know.
You know, like now we're talking and it's, like, let's be raw, right? Like now we can talk and it's like we think about it, right? Like I thought about what he said, right? About like those little things that you don't think about is how he has his hands on the belt. Like those little things he didn't develop till later on.
Yeah, this is like teenage Vader versus when you think about like original trilogy, like, dude, Dad Vader, like, who's like the dude.
One of the things that you brought up, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, is because you brought it up a while ago. Where was the Imperial March theme song? And that's why, because that's the Vader.
They literally did it at the end because it's like, no, when he submitted to the Palpatine, it's like, no, okay, now this is like slowly becoming Darth Vader, so now we'll give him Imperial March. So I got it.
Yes, now it all makes sense. Now it all now I understand when he explains it. Now I can see kind of like the adaptation or the evolution of it. Now it all makes sense. And it really makes you appreciate the series a lot more. I really do appreciate it more now because
I'm gonna look at it differently on another rewatch for sure. Like now the little details he was talking about,
yeah, and even just understanding like Kenobi overall, like that's what this show was. It was the hero's journey. I mean, we knew that, but it's all the more you have a better understanding of getting that. Yes, was it a slow buildup? Yes, but you know what? You got that understanding and what it was behind the scenes for these characters, these actors that, play this character, for each and every one of them and how much work and sleepless nights. I mean, you heard it in Dmitrious's voice. I mean, just explaining what it was like and, the trials and the tribulations,
honestly, that guy has put in some beyond work to become like he literally trained his whole life in a sense.
Yeah, this was right. Yeah, I mean, this was it. This was his calling, and whatever you believe in, whether it's a god, whether it's the Force, whatever you believe in. I mean, the wills of the Force were on his side, and it really,
like I said, he manifested that. I feel like he mostly manifested this. Like he knew that role was his, and he literally came up and took it like Vader would. Like it's mine. I'm gonna come up and take it.
Yeah. He made it happen. He made it work, and I'm so happy we got to interview him and have him on the channel and on the podcast here with the two of us here. And I mean, what a journey, man! What a journey you and me have gone through with this. I mean, what a journey we've been through, and it's moments like this that remind you to keep going. Remind you to that how much fun this is. That's what I gather from this, and it's definitely a blessing in disguise. So.
Wait until the next one, guys. Wait until the next one.
You heard it from the man, the myth, the legend himself. And we want to thank you here as it is after hours. My ass is going to sleep.
We're running on fumes.
Yes. Again, we want to thank everybody who is watching and who will watch. You guys are the real ones.
Thanks for staying up with us. If you're on the East Coast, I know it's late over here. It's like, moderately late. But thank you guys for tuning in and being a part of this, because this definitely was a special one.
Yeah, from all over the world, wherever you are, because we don't want to forget you. So I know I tend to forget, other time zones. So I don't want to forget. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We really appreciate the effort, because again, we go as far as you take us. And I mean, Dupree, I mean, do you have any last words before we end it?
Like I said, stick around, because we're gonna be having more big interviews just like this coming up for you guys. So like I said, this is like the first. Stay tuned, because
Yeah.
just stay tuned. You'll see.
Yeah, we have big plans, and going forward, we're gonna try to get it on the other channel. I think we're gonna do that route. We'll have it on the other channel, so that way we get more of, I think, everybody who really tunes into our stuff weekly can see it there, and we'll try to get it where it's consistent on a certain day. That way, you guys kind of know when we do it. As you guys know, when we do our streams on Wednesdays, for Andor, we'll try to have a day that it's consistent for interviews, and get different types of people on, different types
Yeah.
of people for sure. Like I think it's at that point. I think it's about that time now we start going that route. But we'll do a discussion video. Maybe we'll do a live stream and talk about it on another time. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Today was a special one. We're grateful. Again, I know this is like my 10th thank you. I'm going to bed. You could end it here.
Yeah, guys. Like I said, I'm happy you guys decided to tune in with us, because there are a lot of other options when it comes to live streaming out there, but you chose us. Thank you. And on that note, don't forget to subscribe to my boy, the Eternal Sith over here. He does daily content, daily Star Wars news, and yeah, me as well. We'll be having some interesting stuff coming to the channel pretty soon.
Yes.
So I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, you said it. You ended it right there. Just go like and subscribe to also.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, because you doing that helps us, have more opportunities to do what we just did.
Yeah, you guys, the more love you guys show, the more it engages us, and it gives us that momentum to have people like we had today, like Dmitrious. I mean, it's amazing to see the people in the community. And again, we do this because we enjoy it, but also because we enjoy having you guys watch us, have a good time, and hearing you guys give questions and bringing those questions to life. So again, we thank you guys. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Please like and subscribe to Darth Hater 23, as he puts daily content on not just Star Wars, but everything, even everything pop culture you could think of.
Jurassic, indie, Marvel. We got some indie stuff coming up. So yeah, subscribe.
Yes, and I'm sure you're gonna talk about, and I hope you're gonna talk about Black Panther. I'm not there, so that's it. Just go subscribe. Again, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Have a great night, and may the force be with you guys. Later, guys.